Hello everyone, my name is Mr. Iggyx and I'm back with another Rome 2 replay cast, and this time we have a 3v3 and I have a guest here, Jackpro from AIMA clan, so say hi Jack.
Hello everyone.
Okay, so let's have a quick look at the army compositions and then we'll get into this replay. So I've brought pergamon this time. I have 4 Galatian swords in front, I have 2 Galatian swords on the second line and a few Galatian spears, and I have 5 hippeus lancers I believe, and a pergamon's noble cavalry general, and I have some skirmishers, slingers. Then we have an AIMA player on our team, so he has 3 levy freemen to screen for charges. He has some spear band as well to follow up. Then he has some chosen sword band, so 4 chosen sword band I believe. He has some more chosen sword band, so 2 lines of chosen sword band. He has 3 heroic nobles in the back, along with some Briton slingers, which are a fantastic unit. He also has some painted ones, so dodgy unit, we'll see how he uses them. And then for the Arverni we have 3 levy freemen, 4 Celtic warriors, some spear nobles, interesting unit, 2 levy freemen again, and then we have 4 chosen swordsmen, 4 heavy horses you'd expect from the Arverni, and a noble horse, which you wouldn't expect from the Arverni. Then on team 2 we have Epirus, and Epirus has some Illyrian levies, some militia hoplites, 4th Thessalian cavalry, fantastic choice, I love them. Aspis companion cavalry, so very heavy on cavalry and on big units. So Hellenic Royal Cavalry, Aspis companion cavalry, and we have mercenary Indian war elephants. So this is a very specialized army, not a very strong sword corps. So we'll see how the Epirus player uses them. Then we have Tylus, and so we have some tribal warriors here, some Gallo-Thracians, and some Oathsworn on the flanks. We have 4 light horse, which is quite interesting, and 3 Thracian cavalry. So, and for the Illyrian player, we have a front line of 6 Illyrian noble hoplites, so a very tough front line, especially against me as pergamon with my shock cav build. We have 5 slave slingers, or 4 slave slingers, 4 mercenary axe warriors, which is what you'd expect, and some Illyrian 3 spears, which are a fantastic investment, and 3 Tarentine cavalry. So let's get this started. So Jack, why don't you tell us, given these army compositions, what is your expert opinion on how these two sides will match up?
Well, in my expert opinion, I reckon you've got a very balanced faction base here. Tylus are probably the strongest faction on the board, but then I'd say the Arverni and AIMA are probably a bit better than the Illyrians, and while Pergamon are the worst in the game, I would say, I think the other factions don't really balance out that well. So
Okay,
I think it's balanced out. But I think you've got to look into this, and the hippeus lancers could be a game changer.
Yeah.
The elephants, of course.
Yes.
I mean, if the elephants go well, that could definitely win you the game, especially against something like the Arverni. If you can take out a lot of the Oathsworn and the chosen swordsmen there,
Yeah.
you could be in with a good shot.
Some expert analysis, Jackpro, so thanks a lot for that. You may have noticed, dear viewer, that in the background, me and the AIMA player were switching sides. And why did we do that? Well, the most astute among you would have seen that I was countering the ardiaei player, and YOLO charging a front line of Illyrian noble hoplites was not going to go in my favor. So I decided to switch sides to the AIMA player and face Tylus. So great, I'm against Tylus. Brilliant. And as these factions face each other, we see a very interesting maneuver here. We see the Tylus player taking his cavalry, some light horse, and some raiding horsemen around the flanks. So a very interesting tactic. We'll see how he uses them. It is a bit risky, especially because there's a lot of cavalry on the field, because that means that we could trap the Tylus player with his cavalry on one side of the map and isolate and destroy his cavalry. So it'll be interesting to see how exactly he uses his cavalry. And I will give you a quick spoiler, he uses them very, very well in this game. So we have some slave slingers here, ganging up on my slingers, I assume, but the ardiaei player is going to have some serious trouble if the Tylus player doesn't move up quickly to engage me, because we have too much skirmish power for the slave slingers, who are a very poor unit to deal with. Jack, what do you think? Any opinions?
Yeah, I think he's gone in a bit too quickly here, the ardiaei player. I think he could be in trouble if there's no support from Tylus soon. I think I mean, for me, light horse is never a go for me because I don't think they really do that much. You've just got to hope they get into the slingers of the other player and really take out the slingers. I mean, I don't think they're much use for anything else because they're just too light and they just crumble too quickly.
You're right. Even with blocking charges, I'd agree with that analysis because even with blocking charges, light horse just don't have the mass to properly interrupt the charge from an Oathsworn unless if the Oathsworn is unbraced and you get an exceptional charge that really connects. So yeah, I'd say that light horse are quite expensive for what you get. So maybe changing them to a shock cavalry like we see with some mods unit, a really light shock cavalry unit would give them some purpose. But as you see in the background, we have a movement of these cavalry units, and me and the other players on this team were wondering what exactly the Tireless player had in store for us. And it seems, as we get closer to this engagement, that he's going to try and throw some javelins both into the painted ones here, who have very little health, and into my shock cavalry, who also have very little armor. My Pergamenes noble cavalry only have 45 armor, so I'm going to quickly run my shock cavalry general away as he throws javelins. I'm going to turn my slingers around, and as he does this, and I try to screen, the Tireless player is going to very cleverly start to move to engage me, which means that my shock cavalry will be occupied by this threat from behind me, so I won't be able to frontally YOLO charge these tribal warriors. So this is an excellent tactic from our friend the Tireless player. And I'm going to get a very good charge against these light horse here, and we get another fantastic charge against these light horse. So these light horse are dead. There's no way that they're going to get out of this engagement alive. But by engaging me, I have no way to YOLO charge this front line of Tireless players, which is a huge bummer because these tribal warriors are absolutely going to destroy my Galatian sword. So as I deal with this diversion of the light horse, I mean, he is losing cash. I'm going to have to engage with Galatian swords unsupported, very little cavalry support here. We do see some cavalry support, but not much. The majority of my units are going to engage without cavalry support, which is a disaster. My Galatian swords just do not have the health or the melee defense to engage with such a great unit like Tribal Warriors. So this so far, I'd say, is going in the favor of the Tireless player.
I think the ardiaei player maybe made a mistake there. He didn't move up quick enough to support the Tireless player in the end. He moved forward quite quickly to start with, but then didn't support in the initial combat, which meant that the AIMA player could support Pergamon.
I think that's a good point, yeah. He should have moved in faster, because now I'm getting support from the AIMA player with spears in his rear. The Averni player is just about to engage here. He is about to get blunted. His Lyrian levies are just going into his levy freedom. They'll probably actually win that engagement. We see a movement of shock cavalry going around the flanks here. We'll see how effectively used that. We have a movement of spear nobles to deal with this Aspis companion cavalry. If this Aspis companion cavalry doesn't get out of there, yeah, it's going to get frontally charged, which is an absolute disaster for the Epero player, because you have noble spears going in here with cavalry counter-tactics. These guys are going to get absolutely ripped up. So we see a frontal engagement over here. My guys have mostly collapsed, but I am getting rear charges with my hippeus lancers, and I'm getting some pretty decent kills. I have 108 on this Pergamenes noble cavalry. We get another charge here into these tribal warriors in their rear.
They're bunched up there.
They're definitely bunched up there. Although we have the ardiaei player that does seem to be somewhat overwhelming the chosen sword band over here. But he also has some help from the Tireless player, but it's too early to tell exactly how this is going to go. But one thing's for sure, the Tireless player has pretty much won the front line. He's absolutely destroyed my Galatian swords. There were some that I sent to help the Averni player here against the Oathsworn, but for the most part my line has been destroyed, and I'm going to have to rely on my skirmishers and my shock cavalry to destroy this Gallowthracian infantry. Like, we have a charge over here, which will be pretty effective. Over here we see the heroic noble general is about to engage some Illyrian Thurio spears. They're going to get absolutely destroyed. So nothing too interesting is happening over here. Let's see what the Averni player is doing here.
Where are those elephants? I think that's
the elephants.
To look at.
It's a good question, Jack. They're still here. They're being held in reserve, which is probably wise. The Averni player has to be engaged by the Epero player in order for the javelins to not be able to not be thrown. So very wisely. Well, not so wisely. It seems the Epero player is going to...
there's some levy freemen there.
Oh no, this is an absolute disaster for the mercenary Indian war elephants. Berserk in two... Oh, they went berserk very temporarily, I think. But they're no longer berserk, but they've taken some serious HP damage. And some more levy freemen on the way, so this is crucial for Team Pergamon. I'm going to call them Team Pergamon. And we have Hellenic Royal Cavalry going to get a beautiful charge with these chosen swordsmen, or not such a beautiful charge. Oh, this is not brilliant. There were some units here engaged that made this charge not brilliant, but still not bad. We have a rear charge coming in here from the Thessalian Cavalry into these chosen swordsmen. So a pretty nice charge. They did get their jabs off, so this Thessalian Cavalry is not going to enjoy that. These elephants, though, are getting constricted by some levy freemen, so this is probably going to go in the favor of the Arverni player, I'd say. Some more rear charging support from me with my pergamon's noble cavalry. They already have 2 chevrons into the back of these tribal warriors, so pretty good move from me. I'm moving my hippeus lancers into position to help deal with those hoplites over there. Still, the battle rages on between the Iceni and the ardiaei player, although my general is about to kick the bucket here, which is definitely unfortunate for Team Pergamon. And we have some mercenary axe warriors moving here, and I'm getting my cavalry out of here, cutting my losses basically, and leaving the poor Iceni player all by himself. Jack, any comments?
Yeah, I think it's looking quite close between the ardiaei and the Iceni at the moment. Maybe the ardiaei just shading it at the moment. They seem to have more units left. They've got all their slingers around, but it depends.
To be clear,
if he uses them correctly, he could win this.
But Jack, to be clear, with were you the Iceni player in this battle? You were the Iceni player, okay. Right. And do you think you've made any mistakes in this engagement so far? From what you remember?
No, from what I remember, I had a good game.
You had a good game,
yeah,
okay, fair enough.
So
some good engagements here.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see what's going on this flank. So it seems like the Epiro player is getting somewhat wrapped up. He's getting ganged up on by Galatian swords and hippeus lancers and pergamon's noble cavalry. This Hellenic Royal Cavalry, we got an engagement with this Hellenic Royal Cavalry without an engagement, which is without a charge, sorry, which is an absolute disaster. They're going to kick the bucket. These archers are also going to kick the bucket. It would seem that we are about to wrap up the Epiro player, although we do see a nice charge coming in here from the Thessalian Cavalry, but they are getting countercharged by Noble Horse and an extended melee. These guys are going to do an absolutely fantastic job. So the general is dead from the Epiro player, I believe. So the general recently died penalty is going to be applied. We see rear charges coming in here, which is probably going to make these units rout, especially with that general recently died penalty. See, we see a mass rout going on over here. And we see units have routed here, about to rout here, generals gone here, and we have some Thessalian cavalry who are about to get destroyed by overwhelming numbers. So this flank is about to get wrapped up by Team Pergamon. These Tarentine cavalry, from what I remember, were threatening our skirmishers, but I warded them off with some Galatian spears with cavalry counter tactics with 45 bonus versus large, which is awesome for such a cheap unit. I'm chasing out with my hippeus lancers. Over here we see the battle grinding out between Spear Band and Illyrian Noble Hoplites. This is not going to go well for the Spear Band. There's absolutely no scenario in which these Spear Band come out of this alive. But we do see a rear charge from the Iceni player with these painted ones. They're going to get a lot of kills, 142, 143. So these kills are going to start skyrocketing. And they have a fear effect as well, but these guys do have a lot of morale.
They're a hard unit.
They're a hard unit. Absolutely. And these guys are going to get caught by Levy Freeman, it seems. Yeah, and they're going to rout. So, it seems that the Epiro player has been cleaned up. The Tylus player is about to be cleaned up as well, and we see the creation of 2 fronts, one over here by Team 1, one by Team 2 over here. So, let's see how this goes in the endgame. Jack, what are your thoughts now in the endgame? Who do you think has this?
I think the Pergamon team definitely has this now. I mean, it's hard to say though, because you've got all those Illyrian, the Illyrian noble hoplites. They're a tough unit. They'll be hard to kill, and they could take a while to die. But I really do think there is just too much power left for the Pergamon side.
Yeah, I'd agree with you, Jack. We are peppering the Illyrian noble hoplites here, who are in hoplite phalanx, who are celebrating for some reason when they're about to get butchered. No one knows why. This poor gentleman just got a stone in his throat. Absolutely collapsed. What a disaster for that gentleman. We are getting shots in the back of these slave slingers, and these Illyrian noble hoplites are about to form a cohesive front over here. But I still have plenty of ammo, I remembered from this game, so these Illyrian noble hoplites are not going to get enjoyed being peppered by stones.
Yeah, they've been butchered in the side there, really.
Yeah, flank shots, which is not good. These Illyrian hoplites are going to try and engage quickly, but we see stones flying everywhere. These slave slingers are not going to enjoy that engagement. I am pulling back my slingers from this engagement, waiting for the Arverni player and my shock cavalry to get into position.
I think the problem is he wouldn't have had enough killing power even if he had got in quick enough. I don't think with the Illyrian noble hoplites, they just don't have enough killing power with speed at least, to kill an army quickly. So I really don't think that would have been a good tactic to get straight in there.
Yeah, that's true. And also, they do not have much to protect their flanks, these Illyrian noble hoplites. So we will get rear charges rather easily. And I do have a full strength hippeus lancer unit here ready to get rear charges. So in all likelihood, this battle is going to go in our favor. And here they're getting peppered. Even from the front, the Illyrian noble hoplites are not going to enjoy sustained skirmish fire from cheap slingers. And these guys are dropping, albeit slowly, but they are dropping. Shots in the back of these Britain slingers, but they are out of ammo, I believe. So these hippeus lancers are moving into position to get a quick rear charge here, but we'll see how that goes down. Let's quickly fast forward because nothing much is happening right now.
No, there's a lot of to-ing and throwing for the moment.
Yeah. And I believe at this point we decided we want to target the general over here to inflict a morale penalty. So the general should be eating it right now. Well, should be. Should be. Come on, eat it, general. These levy freemen are about to engage with these mercenary explorers, which would not be good for the levy freemen. But at the same time, we are switching out for some hippeus lancers. So if these mercenary explorers are not careful, they're going to get absolutely butchered by a nice charge here. But these mercenary Tarantine cavalry are threatening to throw javelins, so they are being pulled back. But now, yes, the general is taking fire. He has 58 units remaining. He's not going to enjoy the sustained fire.
He really needed to be in the thick of it there. He really needed to be moving up with everybody else instead of staying back, his general. I think that's a mistake that could cost him.
Yeah, and we're going to see a very nice charge. No javelins on the axe warriors. They're going to absolutely eat it. We see the frontline engagement going down here, and these chosen swordsmen are going to get a brilliant charge. The Illyrian noble hoplites have a pretty good charge from what I remember as well. They have a charge bonus of 30, which is a very nice charge for a hoplite unit. But I believe that in cost effectiveness, the chosen swordsman should get the better of these engagements. And I am moving around to some deplete pergamenes noble cavalry 8 and 6 respectively. But I am going to move into my hippeus lancers at some point. The general moving in here. Still, we see a wasting of Illyrian Thurio spear ammo, which is certainly unfortunate. A charge going down here from Galatian spears. General moving into combat, but there's simply too many units.
Too much.
Yeah, and they're still getting shot at by skirmishers, which is not fun for the general. At this point, I remember I asked the AIMA player to engage with the Illyrian Thurio spears, so they couldn't throw their javelins at my hippeus lancers to open up an opportunity for rear charges here. There is still a Thurio spear, so I'm quickly going to try and knock these guys out before they can throw any more javelins. I believe they used cavalry counter tactics earlier, so I didn't worry about them popping that then. These Illyrian Thurio spears are moving into position, but they're throwing their javelins at the general of the Arverni player, but he's going to be met with a rear charge here, so these guys are going to rout very quickly. And then we get a rear charge by the Arverni general into these Illyrian noble hoplites, and that is GG. So thanks a lot to our opponents and to our teammates. Great game. Let's have a look at some of the stats. So for me, my general didn't go brilliantly. This unit in general is just overpriced, I believe, 1,200 and only 45 armor, I believe, which is pretty pathetic.
Yeah, they really aren't the best of cavalry units, but you don't really have much of a choice, do you? Other than
you have hippeus lancers, yeah. You have hippeus lancers instead of the pergamenes, but they only have a little bit more armor as well. These hippeus lancers are doing pretty well. 168 kills, 134 kills, so pretty decent performance. 231 kills from these pergamenes noble cavalry, which is pretty nice. 2 chevrons. These slingers all surviving until the end game, so these guys were pretty well used, I'd say. Galatian spears doing okay. This front line of Galatian swords got absolutely wrecked because I couldn't YOLO charge on demand, basically. So decent amount of kills, decent performance from me. And we have Jackpro over here, my dear friend.
Those heroic nobles went terribly.
Yeah, those heroic nobles did not go well at all. This is substandard even for a Levy Freeman unit, so there's definitely not a great... What happened to them, Jack? Do you remember?
I don't actually know what happened to them. I don't know if they got double teamed by a bit, or I think they perhaps got surrounded by Illyrian noble hoplites, so...
But they must have not gotten a charge either, because that's really not the sort of performance you'd expect
I
from
don't
them.
really understand what went on there. So, it was not great.
These brilliant slingers, pretty good, 98 kills, so a decent performance from these slingers. These chosen sword band, again, wow, these guys really not doing very well. You must have not gotten your charges properly, or I don't know what happened there. Painted one's doing pretty well, 145 kills. We saw some of those charges there. Spirit band not doing much. So a decent performance from Jackpro. Let's see King of the Dead. We have 232 kills on his noble horse. He always uses those noble horse very well, so I'm quite impressed with King of the Dead. These heavy horse all getting chevrons, except this one, so a pretty good performance from these heavy horse, but they're a fantastic, cost-effective cavalry unit. So it's what you'd expect. You have these Celtic warriors here. 102 kills, 143, so nice performance, though no chevrons, so probably on cheaper units. And we have Chosen Swordsman with 3 chevrons, 222 kills, very respectable performance, so very nicely done there. Heavy Freeman doing nothing, and the Spear Nobles, 124 kills, very few losses, so pretty good performance. So well done, King of the Dead. And we have SH, Proud King something, and we have 312 kills from his Oathsworn, 2 XP ranks, which is really good.
Good score from the Oathsworn there.
As usual, these light horse didn't get many kills, but we have to remember they were a distracting maneuver, and think of it as these guys getting kills on my front line over here, because they distract the hippeus lambs. As a result, I couldn't get the charges necessary to block the tireless player's charges. His tribal warriors did very well, especially when they were unopposed by hippeus lancers. The Thracian cavalry doing nothing, honestly, nothing special. Celtic slingers, not much. So decent performance from Proud King something. You have something to add, Jack?
Yeah, what I would say there is that perhaps he spent too much on the diversion, really. I think he could have done that with the diversion just as well, with a bit less cavalry than he put in there. And it really didn't gain him that much of an advantage, whereas a few more soldiers, a few more infantry would have done.
And something to keep in mind, my Galatian swords are only worth 380, while these light horse are worth 450, I believe. So that's a very expensive diversion force.
It is.
So maybe it was worth it, maybe it was not. But decent performance from Proud King something. Then we have M. Mario Tiusa, and he has 180 kills with Illyrian Noble Hoplites, 2 chevrons, very nice performance. His Tarantine Cavalry doing okay, but these guys are overpriced in my opinion. We have 4 Slave Slingers, these guys doing pretty well. These Illyrian Noble Hoplites really tanking the damage, 182 kills, 180, 173, so
really
doing
went well.
Very well against Jack's sword line. So these guys are really, really cost-effective unit. I really like them. These Axe Warriors doing nothing special. And these Illyrian Through Spears getting 2 chevrons, which is very nice. So probably some good jab tosses on cavalry. And for Jack North, we have his Mercenary Engine Warrior Flints. Really didn't do well enough. They got he used them way too early. He did not engage enough troops with his own front line for him to be able to use his elephants effectively. 189 kills is pretty respectable, but you need more. Basically, it's a game-changing unit. He needed more.
You need 300 on an elephant really to be cost-effective, depending on obviously what you're charging into. If you're charging into Oathsworn and you get 189 kills, it's a lot more cost-effective than charging into Levy Freeman, obviously.
Although these Aspis Companion Cavalry are worth a lot of money, they really did not get the kills. They were charged early on and they were engaged by Spear Nobles, which is a very poor use of these guys. These Thessalian Cavalry doing nothing special either, honestly. So not a great performance from the Cavalry and the game-changing unit here. These Archers doing okay for their price. These are Mercenary Italian Swordsmen doing pretty well for their price as well. These Stablite Warriors doing okay as well, and these Militia Hoplites getting 66 kills, and only half the unit was depleted, which is quite impressive.
Yeah, that is impressive.
So, decent performance from everyone. Thanks very much for the game, and we'll see you next time.